Okay, introduce yourself for those who might not know who you are.
All right. Peace out there in YouTube TV land. I write Ces, coming to you live from the South Bronx, here in New York.
Okay, what borough and neighborhoods are you from?
I got a strange story with that. I was born in Bronxville, which is in Westchester County. I was raised in New Rochelle. I moved to Manhattan in the Bronx in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's where I resided. That's where we're at now, and I've been here ever since. So, my father was born and raised in Harlem. So that's primarily, and then he also had a place in the Bronx. So, I was back and forth, Westchester and the Bronx, which is like they're kind of married in that sense. They border.
Okay, so being from the Bronx, you had to see a lot of graffiti. Was there a lot when you started?
Oh yeah, it was already, dudes had already quit. Half of the old timers had already quit by the time I started writing, 1983. So by that time, there was only a few more years left of seeing graffiti on the subways, which I was fortunate enough to be able to see. And actually, I did a few pieces on the trains, but I was such a little kid, 13 years old, I could barely reach the train, right? So I got to see some of the great stuff that really impacted me to this very day, that I still cherish. I could still smell the smells and the sounds and the what's what. It was just like it was really overwhelming, and you thought it was going to be like this forever, just like you think you're going to be a kid forever, and then you realize like, oh shit, this shit ain't here anymore, and I'm really into this, and you just start taking it to other areas. Then it goes worldwide. Then now companies sponsor paint, so it moves really quick. Where we're at today is a million miles away from how I started and how I remember it. You know. Put my glasses on because I'm gonna do something in your book while we're doing this.
Okay, who are some of the artists that was up at the time?
When I first started writing, some of the more impactful. I remember I went to the Hall of Fame in Harlem. This is where I got to really see things standing still, not just sitting on Tremont and watching the train coming in and out of the station and trying to decipher what's what. Down there, I remember Dez and Scheme. They had VULCAN. They all had pieces there at that time. And again, at that time, I was a pretty little dude, so these things were humongous. These pieces and the colors and the impact it had on me. And then seeing things like around like the 6th line, like Scene, Duster, they had like pieces here and there, and even like you'd ride the train and see the rooftops. That was another big thing, to look out the window and see pieces on the roof. Obviously, I remember the Tats crew, also Shame and SAK. So there was a lot of things that had different things that impact me, but these were the guys at that time, Sade and Dune. There were many writers really doing it and doing it right for that era, you know, that was impactful for a young cat like me just starting out, you know.
Okay.
Mac.
Are those the writers that inspire you to start writing?
I would say indirectly, yes. But it was more like cats from my neighborhood who actually were writing and who kind of turned me on to writing. And we would fucking smoke weed and cut school and just check shit out all day. So it was more I was getting, and I was younger than them, maybe like 2 or 4 years younger. So say they were 17, 18, I was 13, 14, you know. Those adventures during those days were very impactful with cats from the neighborhood, just showing me like, you know, oh, check this out, check this guy out, this is so and so, this is that, and trying to, you know, get hip to the who's who and the lingo and what was going on. That's really what it was, you know. It was like a sport. Like learning like who's fresh, who's doing what was just done, who's down with who. There was so many ins and outs, you know.
Okay, what year did you start writing?
1983.
Okay, how did you come up with the name Ces?
The name Ces, I didn't come up with it. This is not in any interview because I know you did your research. One of the cats that really put me down with writing, he lived across the street from me. His name was Randy, and he would change his name, his writing name, every other day. Like every time we would hook up or whatever, he's like, "Yo, check this out, I'm writing this now." And all his names were fresh. So I kind of took the name from him. I'm like, "Oh, you're not using that one anymore, now you're writing," you know. I remember he was writing Century 21 at that time, and then he was writing Task the next day, and then he wrote, man, he had so many different names, it was ridiculous. So I really got it from him, where I kind of took one of his many names and kind of flipped it that way. And in doing so, and to properly say it the way it actually is, you know, looking at, like I said, scene and scheme, and guys with SAD, guys with shame, guys with S's and E's in their name. Because when I first wrote Ces, I wrote it SES, you know. So that's what I was checking, it the way that these guys were formulating those particular letters. And in writing SES, it was very difficult when I would do pieces to do an S, an E, and try and do an identical S after that. I just didn't have the skill at that time to be able to formulate that. Though I tried, and I could show you pictures of how well I tried at that time, I never could get it. So as I'd say, I wrote SES from 83 to maybe 86, which seems like an eternity to a kid. So now I'm 16, and I changed it up to CES, because it was still, people were calling me Ces. I was known as Ces in my little corner of the world, and I didn't want to change the sound or the rhythm of my name. I just wanted to make the letters more comfortable for me to do. So that's the way I went with it, and pretty much stuck with it ever since that time, because I was able to, at first honestly I didn't like it. It was just like it just kind of didn't fit, but it was easier for me to do and formulate. So that's a fun fact of that.
Okay, did you ever write anything else?
I did. I wrote several other names, and when the first night I ever painted, I wrote Pro, P-R-O, and that only lasted that first night. And I was like, well, that's like almost my last name if you knew my real last name. So I was like, dudes were like, no, you can't do that. That's like just fucking making yourself hot right out the gate. You know, you need to go more undercover than that. So that was actually my first name. I did a few other pieces. I did a few ink pieces, INK. I did Box, BOX. Thinking of actual pieces that I did. I'm not talking about just drawing in books. I'm talking about actually like paint to surface action. Yeah, those were, I had several names, but Ces is what I, stuck with and became my name. Like, there were plenty of people at that time, obviously, that didn't know my real name, and I didn't know their real name, and that was my name. So it was kind of like, I can't be Rob. As you know me, we go to school, and I'm like, yo, I'm not Rob no more, I'm fucking Mike. You couldn't do that. So I didn't see doing that in writing either. It's like, yo, that was my name. I already got, like, a couple years in, I got to ride with it. So I stuck it out. I'm still sticking it out.
Okay, I assume you was in high school when you started. What high school did you go to, and was there any other writers that went to school with you?
Yeah, no, I was in junior high school when I started, which was high school in up in New Rochelle was 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Junior high school was 7th, 8th, and 9th, actually. I started, I think, in 7th grade. Yeah, there were writers actually. They were older, cats that were older. So I wasn't the only one. There were pieces on the fucking walls, and you know, buses were being hit, and everything was still happening the same. Like I said, so I was one of the younger cats from my school that was writing. And then there was like a summer, I'd say like the summer of '84. I think everyone wrote. My brother wrote. Everyone in school wrote. Either you were writing graffiti, breakdancing, or DJing. This was what was going on in the world at that time. So, you know, to be quite honest with you, that's how I remember it.
Okay, who was the first person you met when you started writing?
First started writing, I would say it was another writer who was very extremely impactful on my writing career. He goes by the name Vet, V-E-T. He also write Share. He writes a lot of different names also. Primarily, most people would know him as Vet. I met him in the summer of '84 through Randy, the cat that turned me on to writing. He was a little bit older than him. We met, we went bombing. The next day, I think he's the one who yeah, we just went out and just checked shit out all day and was scoping spots. He had just did a rooftop, I think it was on the 2 line, and we had cut and broke out and went there and checked it out. So he was seeing shit like, oh shit, this dude really does the real shit type thing at that time.
Okay, what was your early memories of painting on the trains?
Again, I'm coming into the game like super late. You know, it was at the end of everything. So maybe I painted on trains like 3 times, to be quite honest with you. And my memory was, of course, stealing the fucking paint, getting the supplies together, which I thought was some of the fun times of doing the adventurous shit like that. I remember we went to Baychester, and then we went to Dyer Avenue, which would be the last stop on the 5. And me and Randy, we didn't know too much about this shit. We just straight went there in the daytime with our paint and just walked right in and started painting. And as soon as I got to the train, I realized that I was too small and I couldn't reach the train. You'd be surprised as a little kid standing in the fucking layup that the actual carriage of the car, not the wheels and the trucks below it, that shit's like 4 or 5 feet up. So then you're gonna go ahead and paint, and I'm like fucking so tiny at that time. I'm like I said, I was a little kid. I had to run back. There was a milk factory around the corner. Went to the milk factory. I took 2 milk crates out of their trucks or whatever they had, ran back into the fucking layup and put the 2 milk crates on top of the wood of the 3rd rail, and then I was able to reach to do my piece. And that's when I found out, oh shit, this shit is not a wall, this shit is dumb hard. Because I hit that shit and the paint was just running down the fucking train. I remember it was a silver, I did a silver piece, like a script letter, Ces. Man, that shit was fucking awful, but it was up, it was there, I did it. And again, you've seen different interviews of me talking about stuff. I don't talk about things so much like that in the early beginning stages because I didn't take any pictures. I don't really have something where I could say, yo, this is me at this time, you know. So I wouldn't make this up. It's actually embarrassing and saying those things, but yeah, it's what it was at that time, you know. I do have other pictures and pieces that I can say, okay, boom, this is me, and these were some of my pieces in and around that time. So again, coming where I was coming from, trains was just another part of graffiti. It wasn't everything in graffiti. As I've come to find out, some people only judge graffiti by whether or not you did trains, which I don't necessarily subscribe to that thinking, though I understand everyone's going to speak from where they come, right? This was their introduction into such and such, and this is it. There are guys who, like the early cats, Taki 183, or I have another piece on the wall here, Cornbread, they didn't write on trains. They were neighborhood cats, right? So they were wall writers, as they're known. So it's all where you come into it, you know, how you're turned on to the culture. So again, it was just another part. Like cats today, a lot of cats are really into just painting freight trains, right? So that's a whole movement in itself. They don't give a fuck about a New York subway or a wall somewhere. They just want to paint freights. That's their thing.
Okay.
Everyone has their own.
What was the first crew you was ever in, and who were some of the people from that crew?
The first crew I was ever in, that would be Vet's crew. And again, this has to be 84. And the name of the crew was T.C.V, the Crazy Vandals. Vet, Gremlin, Micro, Randy, CJ. These were all cats that were in and around at that time that were part of that crew. Most of which, with the exception of Vet, I believe most of which do not write.
Okay, what other crews have you repped through the years?
Numerous crews. Obviously, I would probably say I'm more known for FX in the 90s, but I've written with some of the best crews I've been fortunate enough to be part of, and you know, still continue. But again, as you get older, the crew mentality and this kind of thing unless you're really doing shit with dudes on a regular, I kind of grew into my own world, my own bubble, so to speak. I'm not really out there painting at this time, right? So I got all the love in the world for the crews and the fellas and this and that, but it's more like real life kicks in at a certain point, so I'm just doing what I do, right?
Okay, you mentioned FX. How did you get involved with FX, and who put you down?
FX was, if you're not familiar, like Purr and Pose and T-Kid and Nomad, various other writers. I think it was Purr who asked me and Clark ID to come and paint a wall that they were doing, and it was on that day that they asked, I believe, both of us to be down with FX. I'm going to guess 93 maybe that was.
Okay, FX is one of the best graffiti crews in the 90s, in my opinion. What was the most memorable wall that you did with the crew?
I would have to say the wall that we did with DAIM and HESH from Germany with the big Statue of Liberty. I think that was like a monumental at that time undertaking, and shit was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, and it was man, it seems like a million years ago, right? I think that was 96, if I'm not mistaken, which, what are we in, 2021, however that is. That would probably be the most impactful monumental one. We did quite a few, you know, monster walls. At that time, that's what it was, like respect to FC and to Tats Crew and COD and other crews that were doing really big productions like that. That's where it was. It was like real competitive times, you know.
Okay, did you ever go to the writer's bench at 149th Street? And
I did.
Who were some of the names that you remember always being up there?
Oh man, I remember in the writer's bench, Scheme had a piece across the top. There was like a little kind of bridge passage that you could walk from the uptown side to the downtown side. So I remember seeing that piece in person when I was a kid there. It wasn't really bombed like the station, I don't recall. There were marker tags here and there, so it wasn't like, but I just remember that piece offhand.
Did you ever have a graffiti partner?
I've had many. Vet was I consider him a partner. Clark was a great partner of mine, and again in the early 90s. Yes, too. Scene. Quite a few cats. You know, we partnered up. I felt like partnership was like, it was like a motivation. Like when you didn't want to go and do shit, like, yo, come on, I got this spot. If I couldn't make it, or if I wasn't hyped, dudes would get you hyped, or I will hype you up to come and do it as well.
Okay. What lines did you write on, and did you king any?
No, I was a young writer when that was all going on. So no, I was no king of any, still no king of anything. I'm just another cat doing it. I just, you know, respect the cats that really, really lived it to that extent. We're in a whole different realm right now, you know.
Okay. So what was your peak years on the subway?
All right, I think we need to check who the fuck you asking these questions to. I'm not known for a subway writer, right? So I'm at the end of subway graffiti and coming more into really when I made my bones, when I put my name out there, was more people know me from my work in the 90s. Subways had long been gone since the mid 80s at that point. So yes, I continued to write on trains in the clean train era, and I attempted to do a handful of trains as a little kid, but not am I sitting here trying to talk that I was there doing A, B, and C. I'm doing shit now. I did shit in the 90s. I continue to do shit to this day. That's more what I'm known for.
Okay. Do you have a favorite chase or raid story?
Oh, man. Bringing me back. It's been a few years since I got chased, thank God. I don't think I'd run today. I would say I was painting a spot out in Far Rockaway with Vet, and we had been drinking and smoking. This is early 90s, so maybe I'm 20, 22 years old, and we're on our way to go hit this rooftop spot, and I just, on the way walking to the spot, we took the train, obviously we're not from out there. I said, yo, let's just take some tags right here in front of this building right here across the street. We just took 2 big fat cap tags, like, yeah, those shits, you know, just to let cats know we was out here, we're on our way to go hit this spot. And what was that for? Because I turned around and there was like a whole mob of dudes standing in front of the projects that were right on the next corner. They saw us take those tags, and then like I got 6 dudes started following us. I said, oh shit, what the fuck is this shit about now? So we're walking up one block, and now I see them. They all got hoods on. Now they're coming around to the next block, and I could see the train station. I was like, yo, I don't know where the fuck I'm at, and I'm high, and I'm drunk. Yo, I'm out. Ran into the train station, me and Vet. The 6 dudes come running into the train station. 2 of them jump over the turnstile with us. One is going at Vet. He got a knife. Vet swinging his 40 at him. You hear the knife hitting the 40. They're on the steps going up to the platform, and I got the other dudes around me. And the dude was like, yo, where are you cats from coming out here writing in our neighborhood? Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And again, it sounds crazy today, but this is what it was back then. So I can't, it almost doesn't even apply today that this shit would go down. So I explained to him, I live in Manhattan, you know, we coming out here to hit a spot, to just get our names up. That's what we do. And the dude's like, yeah, that's cool, I respect that, but this ain't the neighborhood to do that. We're not having that shit out here. This and that. I'm actually having this conversation. He's on one side, and his man is like standing over me. I'm like, fuck, dude. You know, he was like, what's up with your man? He's up there. You know, they probably fucking killed him already. This and that. I said, man, I'm here. What do you want me to tell you? You know, this is what it is. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right here. And he looked at me. And true story, I ain't making this shit up. He goes, yo, I respect that, dude. You stood here and held your ground, man. That's real. He goes, but your man went upstairs. He left you. You know, you should come with us and go, you know, do him in. I was like, no, that's my man. I'm sure he's handling his. And he had to tell his man, yo, chill, let this cat go. He got balls. He stood his ground. He goes, but your man, we going after him. I said, oh shit. They went running up the stairs. Now they left me in the train station at the bottom. There was a token booth clerk. I just picked up the newspaper and pretended that she didn't see what was happening, that I almost got killed right now by a gang of dudes. They're up there, and I'm like looking at her like, oh, this is like less than a minute goes by. And then I hear them yelling and running back down the stairs. And now I'm like, oh shit, I didn't want to be here for that. So I start running again, and I run out the fucking train station. Right across, there was a cab stand with all the cabs parked, and I'm running. I pull the money out of my pocket. I put it on the dude's windshields, $10, $20. I was like, yo, get me the fuck out of here now. Start the car. Dude was like half asleep. I jumped in the car. All these dudes came running. They jumping all over on top of the hood, on top of the car. This dude just takes off. They all just fucking fall to the side. I'm sticking my finger out the window like, yeah, fuck you. I told this dude, yo, go to the next stop and park. I ain't got that kind of money to be paying for you to take me back to Manhattan. Got back, jumped back on the train, thinking, oh shit, they killed my man, this and that. What the fuck just happened? It happened so fast. I wish I would have, not been fucked up and been able to formulate it. What the fuck went happen? Get to my house. My man Vet is chilling with my brother, drinking fucking Jack Daniels, like listening to music. Like, oh, we was over here worried. We thought you died. I was like, I thought you died. I said, how the fuck did you get out of there? He said, as soon as I went upstairs, this kid with the knife and his other boys came running. Train pulled in. 2 cops got off the fucking train, and these kids ran. I said, yeah, they came out. They came running down the stairs after me. I had to run all over again and get the fuck out of there. Oh my God. So just taking a tag, all that wild shit just happened. So you got to be careful. I learned right there, just, be mindful of what neighborhood you think you're going to write in. It's not all gravy out here.
Okay, I seen in recent years you joined TMT. How did you get involved with TMT, and who put you down?
Chain 3. Here, we would paint on the roof often. Me, Chain, Cade, Team, Fed, a bunch of cats. Even Scheme came by and painted. A bunch of the guys came by. So they put me down after a couple of years of just doing a lot with them and painting here, mainly with Chain, and we were doing a lot more up here than most. So through them, that's really how that happened,
Okay, let's talk about the TMT versus T.C.V battle. How did that come about?
I'm not 100% sure on how it came about, like the whole ins and outs. I think it happened. Might have been something that transpired in the backyard at Tough City between Scheme and Scene T.C.V. But it was definitely an interesting time, and dudes paired off and did some good work on the fabricated trains during those days. So it ended up being a pretty positive thing.
Okay, I remember you and Cade did the money train car. Did you have fun with the battle, or did you take it serious?
Both. I mean, whenever you're painting, you want to really do your best. You want to make it count. I'm not big on wasting my time or energy to do something that I'm not taking serious. So, but at the same time, I do like to enjoy myself and make the best of the situation. I don't want it to be like work, so to speak. So I think what we did was great. I had a good time doing it. I think the result was cool. The whole experience was a cool experience, and I guess if you put together from the stories of how dudes had impact on me to actually be part of something like this later on in life was really a special, time, so to speak.
Okay, I recently caught a freight of you, Scene, and Risk in Dallas. You enjoy doing freights, and does that motivate you knowing that it lasts longer than subway cars?
It does, and I do appreciate the freight movement, as I said. I just wish I had a better spot over here to do them. Those were done in California, you know. Yeah, but the fact that they do run and can go all places. I've seen people send me pictures that those same. I mean, granted, we probably did 50 freights that night or whatever. We just went in there with like a shit ton of paint and just painted until we had nothing left. So whatever went across America after that on that night was what it was. The fact that they continue to run and go all over the place is just a bonus, you know, towards putting it in. But I'm more into the moment and the adventure of doing it at that time. I'm not too concerned with, you know, much else.
Okay, we covered a lot today. Is there something you want to touch on that we haven't already touched on?
No, I mean, we just talking about graffiti writing as an individual. These are some of my stories, and again, we could talk for days. I've done enough work and accomplished quite a number of things to touch upon. I think that's like the basic stories and ideas and thoughts of where we're at the moment. I mean, right now, if I had to say something, I'm primarily into more fine art and painting on canvas, more spending time in my studio and relaxing. I mean, I'm over 50 now. I don't have the time or energy to be out here running and gunning, and to do pieces occasionally with the fellas here and there. I look forward to it, you know, but for the most part, I'm just on some cool out shit and just keeping it going in my own way, so to speak. So, you know, I appreciate you coming out and kicking it with me, and I hope the best for you as well as the culture.
Any last words or shout outs to family members or friends?
Nah, they know who they are. It's all love, you know.
Okay, Ces.
Signing off. Peace.